In this deep dive, we're really focusing on a key question in prenatal care. It's about the value of a second routine blood screening for Rh-positive pregnant women. And we'll be taking apart a really interesting research article from Sweden that dives deep into the methods behind this debate. Perfect for you, our epidemiologist listeners out there.
Yeah, it's a question with some pretty surprising answers. At first glance, the risk of complications seems low, but this study really suggests that a second screening could be a lot more beneficial and even cost-effective than it initially looks.
Exactly. So let's set the stage here. We know the standard in most European countries involves two screenings for Rhd-negative women. But the benefit of that second screening for Rhd-positive women is much less clear-cut.
Right, and that's where the Swedish study comes in. They had a really unique opportunity to look at this because of the variation in practice across different regions in Sweden. You see, some regions already do routine second screenings and others don't. So this kind of created a natural experiment which let the researchers compare outcomes and really dig into the impact of that second screening.
So how did they approach this? Did they just compare the rates of complications between those regions with and without the second screening?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. They took a very interesting approach, developing a prediction model using data from the regions that do those multiple screenings. This model was meant to predict the probability of a woman developing antibodies later in pregnancy, even if her initial test was negative.
Okay, so they built the model based on the group with more data. Then what? Did they apply that model to the regions without the second screening?
Exactly. They took the model and basically transported it to the data from those regions without routine second screenings. You can think of it like taking a blueprint, and adapting it to a slightly different building site. You adjust for those little variations in the foundation, but the core design principles, they all stay the same.
That's a great analogy. So by transporting the model, they could estimate how many cases of alloimmunization, that is, the development of antibodies against fetal blood, might be missed in the regions without the second screening.
Precisely. And this is where things get really interesting. Even though the incidence of alloimmunization after that initial negative test is seemingly low, the model predicted a pretty significant number of cases that would be missed if you didn't have that second screening. In fact, they estimated a potential surplus of 249 stillbirths and 1034 very preterm deliveries in the group that was only screened once.
Wow, those numbers are really eye-opening. And that's just the human impact. What about the economic side of things?
Well, they found that the costs that go along with those additional screenings and monitoring were actually far outweighed by the potential savings from avoiding those really negative pregnancy outcomes. They estimated that the costs associated with those missed cases would be 8 to 10 times higher than the cost of just doing the additional testing.
So even from a purely economic standpoint, that second screening looks like a pretty good investment.